So welcome to week 3 of the Home Film School, and today we're going to be looking at script writing. We've come up with some ideas so far in the previous 2 weeks. This week we're going to put it into an actual script. Let's do a quick recap on what we have done so far. So in week 1 we were introduced to film. What is film? In week 2 we looked at story. The start, the middle, the end. How to tell a story. And we came up with the secret ingredients of what makes up a story. In this week, we're going to look at script writing. The way that this is going to be broken down is I'm going to spend the first bit of this workshop talking about the actual traditional formatting of a script, the way you would normally see a film script laid out. Then we're going to look at different ways in which you can create a working document for you to then use to film. And we're also going to look at a few more aspects of story. Because, as I've said in every single video so far, story is king or queen. Story rules. How to lay out a traditional script. In this, we're going to look at 4 aspects. Number 1 is the slug line. This happens at the start of a scene and it is broken into 3 parts. The first part is internal or external, where the scene's happening. The second part is where the scene is set. Is it a kitchen? Is it a busy street? Is it a field in the middle of nowhere? This is the world that scene is happening in, and we get to see it all. Finally, we find out what time the scene is happening at. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific time, 6:10 in the afternoon. It can be as broad as day or night. It can be specific. It can be midday, Tuesday. It says this is the area that we're going to play in, and then we start drilling down into the details. Number 2 in script writing, after the slug line, is the action. Now, as I have said in every single one of these workshops, film is all about seeing action. It's about seeing people doing something. There can be no film if our protagonist isn't taking action. We start to drill down, and really what we are seeing here is what is happening in this area, in this location that we have had set up. When setting up the action of the scene, it's important to think of visuals. When we are writing the action in our script, it's important that we give the characters something that we can see them doing. So, for example, we can't see that she's looking out the window and thinking of the holiday that she's going on in 2 weeks. We can see she's looking out the window, the rain is falling, and she sighs. They're 3 visuals that allow us to get that information and to tell the story and to drive it forward, but they're actions. So the action part of our script is important. It's vital. As well as the action, we're also going to find out who is in this scene, the characters that are going to play out this scene. Traditionally, if we are being introduced to a character, their name will be capitalized. This is almost like a handshake, an introduction for the reader and the character. This is where we get to know them. The important thing as well to think about in this initial introduction is, what do you want your audience's first impression of this character to be? So, think of how you're going to describe them. For example, Joe, a 16-year-old schoolboy slumped in the corner, clothes dishevelled and a cut under his left eye. This tells us a lot about Joe, and we start to build a story of who that person could be. Alice stands in the middle of the street in a mismatch of clothes, with large headphones on, oblivious to what's going on around her. Again, this tells us a bit about Alice. So suddenly we as the reader, and then going on, us as the audience, feel that we have a first impression about this character. Number 3 on your script will be your character's name. It's as simple as that. That will go in the middle of the page, and then under that you will have dialogue, what the character is saying. So, who is it? And then number 4, the dialogue. What are they saying? Before we go on, a small note about dialogue. We can sometimes get caught in the trap of having our characters saying lots and lots and lots of words. But what we want to try and do is we want to try and get the character to tell us, the audience, information through what they do, their actions. We want the character to give us information by what they do, as well as by what they say. And the important thing about both of those is that what is happening, be it the words that are being said or the actions being taken, we have to think, how does this move our story on? How is this creating change in the world that we are developing? We've just had a look at a traditional formatting for a script, with our slug line, with our action, with our character name, and what our character says. There are lots of other aspects to a traditional script, but I think what this does is this puts us in a good place, and we can now move forward and try and get our idea that's sitting in our head down onto a working document. I realise that we're in week 3 and I haven't even asked you to pick up your phone or your camera and go out and start filming video. But there's an important reason for this, and each of these weeks is creating an additional layer to a foundation that will put us in a really good solid place for when we do actually go out there and film. When you are filmmaking, a lot of your time is spent in what's called pre-production. Pre-production is organising your script, it's casting your actors, it's finding your locations, all of these kind of things. This can take weeks. In the big budget films, it can take years. Then you get to your filming, and in my case, if I'm making a short film, that could be maybe 2 or 3 days of filming. Then you've got your post-production, which is your editing, it's your sound design, it's your colour grading, and that's before you even start thinking of how you're going to promote your film. So the filmmaking process, the smallest chunk of that is actually going out there with a camera in your hand. Sometimes you do want to just grab your camera, go out and film. But the plus of preparing before you go out there and film is that you have a really clear idea of what you are going to go and make. We've got some things that I want you to do before we even start creating our script. But there's a couple of tasks that I'm going to set you. And these tasks are really going to help you with the script writing process. It's highly unlikely that you have millions of pounds to create a fantastical world of dragons and castles and spaceships. Before you start building a script, I want you to start building an inventory. The resources that you have available to you. So we need to find out what locations we have available, where you can set your film. Secondly, I want you to find out the people that you have available to help you. That could be the people that are going to be your actors. That could be the people that are going to help you work the camera, the lighting, whatever. So quickly put a list of that down. You're also going to build a list of props and costume that you have available. Film is visual, in case I hadn't told you that already. So what a character is wearing is again going to tell us a lot about that character. Props. Have a look around your house and see if there's any objects that are interesting. Something that you think might visually look really stunning in front of the camera, or something that you think, maybe we could build a story around this. Say there's an expensive looking ornament that you see and you think, okay, we could tell a story based around this. Or you might have an interesting looking old book in the house. There's lots and lots of objects that we can use to help our story as well. Once you have all of these ideas written down, you will then have almost like a framework in which to set your story. You'll know the places that the action is going to take place. You will know your actor or actors. You will know what they're wearing, and you will know the important objects that are part of your story. Once we have all of these, I want you, as in the previous weeks, to think of 5 possible stories. Now we're going to go a bit deeper into how to create these stories. In each of the 5 stories, you're going to focus on your character, and you are going to focus on what the character wants. What your character wants could be massive. They could be striving to find a cure for the coronavirus. It could also be small. It could be trying to get the last bar of chocolate that's in the kitchen cupboard. You're going to have 5 of those, 5 different stories, 5 different wants. So once you've got your character and your want, you're also going to think of what your character needs. A want and a need for our character are 2 very different things. A character's want, they're going to be aware of. They are going to want to win the game. They are going to want to go out with their crush. They are going to want to pass the exam. But deeper than that, and often what the character doesn't realise, what our protagonist isn't aware of, is their need. For example, I want to win the game, but my need might be, I need the recognition from my classmates. I might want to go and ask my crush out and go on a date, but my need might be to have belief in myself, to have self-confidence. At the end of this exercise, with the 5 potential scenes, you will have your character, you will have their want, and you will have their need. Then you are going to think of the obstacles that are in your character, your protagonist's way. So you'll have an overview of 5 stories. And then from that, we are going to create a script. I'm going to place a further limit on your script by saying that there is no dialogue at this moment. So things have to happen. The story has to be told just by using visuals, just by using the images that you create. What you write is all pretty much going to be in the action part of the script. Now, the important thing when putting all of this down on paper is I want you to see in your mind each of the camera shots that are taken to tell this story, and you're going to break them down into their own separate lines. The front door is open. A bag is dropped at the bottom of the stairs. Joe, 16, in a bedraggled school uniform, walks down the hall into the kitchen. As an example of what I mean by putting each of the camera shots down on a list, I've used the previous example that we had of Matthew standing on the side of a mountain. I've put some footage together to show you what I mean by that. This is almost like the slug line where we're introducing the side of the mountain. Then we see Matthew, we see his clothes, we see that look on his face. From that, the next shot is what he is seeing. So already we're into that story. Notice the fact that we had said that Matthew was wearing something that prepared him for where he was. Imagine how different the story would be if the man was standing there in a suit and tie with shiny business shoes on. It would be a very different story. We would really be wondering why he is there. So again, that is just a little highlight of how important costume can be. So now you have your script. I want you to go out and I want you to shoot the shots that you need to tell the story. Once you've done that, depending on how you've shot the film, I want you to go online and to find some editing software that you can use to cut all of these different shots together into one story. Now, if you've shot it on your mobile phone, you might want to use something like Power Director. Depending on if you're on a Mac or a Windows system, you can look and see what different editing software there is out there. You've got the likes of DaVinci Resolve, which is a free editing software that you could download and use. So go online, check YouTube, find out the different editing programs that you can have, download one of them, and see if you can put your story together. And we would love to see what you make. As well as your script, do send us these things through. So this brings us to the end of week 3. Next week, it's about filming. So it's going to be very practical, it's going to be very hands-on, and you're going to be doing and making a lot. We're going to go through various principles, such as the 180 degree. We're going to look at camera angles. We're going to look at shot sizes. And more importantly, we're going to look at why we would use these in different situations, how changing these changes the story that we're going to tell. So till then, keep writing your scripts and keep shooting stuff. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. That will keep you up to date with all of the fantastic workshops that are happening with Wheelworks. I'd encourage you to try a couple of the other ones. And specifically in terms of filmmaking, why not try the mobile phone photography? Because there's lots of principles there that you could use in filmmaking as well. They really do complement each other. So, see you at the same time, same place next week. And until then, go out and create some stuff.